Can Georgia win a national championship with JT Daniels? That's the big question this year, and we're going to talk about it right now on Dawg Football. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when we post new videos. Going to be posting several a week now, so I'm pretty excited about it. Especially with the season kicking off here, we're going to have a lot more content coming out for you guys. So I want to cover the reasons why JT Daniels could win a national championship this year, and maybe some of the reasons why he won't. You know, at the end of the year, if he does, I think these will be the three reasons. I mean, there's obviously going to be more, but these are the three main reasons that I think he'll end up winning a national championship with Georgia, or if we get to the end of the year and it wasn't the season that we were hoping for. One are probably the three things that went wrong, and I'm going to cover those right now, starting with number one, for the reasons why I think it will happen. I think this is one of the reasons why we will win a national championship this year, and that is the offensive line. I think the offensive line, there's a lot of questions right now, and, there's some injuries and stuff like that, but I think this offensive line is good enough. We have enough talent. We have great coaching. Great coaching staff. I think that the offensive line will be able to live up to the standard that we have for it and we have seen in the past couple of years. I think, there's a lot of young talent on this team too that can step up, but I think at the end of the year, for JT Daniels to have, and this applies to all quarterbacks, but for JT Daniels to have a great season, I think that the offensive line is going to have to step up, and I think that they're going to have to provide good coverage for him. And that'll allow him to have time to throw the ball, make a play, be flashy, have those really good moments that we love to watch, So I think at the end of the year, when we look back on it, if we have won a national championship, that offensive line is going to be one of the main pivotal reasons why we did win. Secondly, I have Todd Monk in. Now, we brought Todd Monk in last year, and obviously, JT Daniels only played those last 4 games, and that last one is the bowl game against Cincinnati. He only played 3 regular season games. He was coming off of that injury. But if you look at what Todd Monken's done, he's really changed the whole offense. And I'm not going to cover too much of what Stetson Bennett and Dwan Mathis and those quarterbacks did because, it is what, they are what they are. They're not at the same caliber of talent that JT Daniels is at, so I'm not going to cover it too much because you can't really compare what Todd Monken did with them versus what Todd Monken can do with a player like JT Daniels, who is a student of the game. If you look at what JT Daniels did his last 4 games, he had 1,231 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, which was pretty good. That's pretty good right there. And I multiply, that's 4 games. Those are his statistics over 4 games. So I multiplied it by 3, and this is what it came out to. It was 3,693 yards. Now, obviously, it's kind of hard to be a pinpoint accurate, so I would just round around probably 3,700 yards there. 30 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Not bad. I think for JT Daniels to have a really good year under Todd Monken, I think that they're going to have to figure out a way for him to get probably 4,000 yards. Well, I mean, 3,700 is not bad. That's not bad at all. I think 3,700 to 4,000 yards is where he needs to be in order for us to have a great season. If he doesn't hit that, something's probably not going great. 30 touchdowns, that's not terrible either, but I think in order for JT Daniels to have a great season, he needs to hit probably around 35 to 40 touchdowns. I think if we hit 30, probably have a pretty good year. But I think in order for JT Daniels to lead this team, he needs to have probably 35 touchdowns. And I think, we have the talent at wide receiver to do it. 6 interceptions is not bad at all. Not terrible. And this is just, my estimate for, the regular season. If you look at JT Daniels, some more, in-depth statistics, and I don't consider myself a statistic, expert or anything, but he averaged 10 yards per attempt, compared to Mac Jones. He had 11.2 per attempt, so he's right there. He's right there in that category. 10 yards per attempt is really good. He had a 67.2% completion rating compared to Mac Jones's 77.4. And Mac Jones is a pretty high standard to compare it to, but this will probably help you understand a little bit better. Spencer Rattler, he is the Heisman forerunner this year. He had a 67.5% completion last year. And, that's obviously over more games. It's more saturated than what JT Daniels was. But, the completion percentage is right there with Spencer Rattler, who's a Heisman contender this year. So I think you should be excited about what JT Daniels could do this year if everything goes well. I think he needs to maintain probably around like a 69% completion rating in order to have a successful season, like a really good season. I think 69 is a good goal for him to have, and I think we could probably hit that. But 67.2 is not terrible either. And again, a lot of it depends on the receiving core. He could throw some really great throws, but they may not catch it. So a lot of it depends on that as well. But I think so Todd Monken is the second reason. I think the third reason is freshman wide receivers step up. Now we have some, or underclassmen, I should say underclassmen wide receivers, because people like Jermaine Burton, he's a sophomore, so he's an underclassman still. We have a lot of freshmen stepping up. You have A.D. Mitchell, you have Lad Munkin, I think is his name. Sorry if I botched it. I'll put it up here if it's not correct. You have Justin Robinson. You have a lot of guys that are going to make a big impact this year. Brock Bowers. You have a lot of people, and obviously I'm going to forget some names. I didn't write them down. But you have a lot of freshman wide receivers that are probably going to have to step up, and sophomores, underclassmen. And, especially with people like, especially in this first game against Clemson, you have people like George Pickens out, Dominic Blaylock, probably Darnell Washington. We thought Eric Gilbert or Arik Gilbert, I don't know how you say it. We thought he was going to be able to come in and step in and help out with the team, but, he's battling some personal issues, so now he's not with the team. I think Fitzpatrick will be able to step in and play, but you're going to have a lot of these underclassmen step up, and I think they will. You have Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. He's probably going to be a really pivotal key. You have Kearis Jackson, who's probably the leader of this receiving core, but you're going to have a lot of these guys step up over the season. And I think they can. We saw some flashes from A.D. Mitchell in the spring game. I think a lot of these players, maybe there's going to be some, bumps in the road, some learning curves early on in the season, and they're going to have to grow up pretty fast against Clemson. But there's going to be some things where they make some mistakes, I'm sure. But I think by the end of the season, no matter what happens with that Clemson game, I think at the end of the season, we're going to have one of the best receiving cores in the whole country and one of the best teams personally. Now, if we don't win and we don't have the season that we're hoping for, I'm not talking about even a playoff run. I'm talking about like we make it to the SEC championship and lose, or maybe don't even make it there. I mean, don't want to speak it out into existence, but, as a possibility. I think the reason why it won't happen is, again, the freshman receivers. If they can't step up to the plate and deliver, because you don't know when you're going to get Darnell back yet. I'm assuming, week 2 or 3 we'll get him back, but, you don't know when you're getting him back. You don't know when you're getting Pickens or Blaylock back. You don't know when you're getting all these different people. So if they don't step up to the plate, I think the passing game is not going to be as great. With the first scrimmage, there was rumors that JT didn't have the best day. And a lot of that was probably because of the freshman wide receivers, if I had to guess. So, I heard the second scrimmage, I think, was a lot better. Excuse my grammar. It was a lot better than the first scrimmage. But still, if they can't step up to the plate, then I don't know how great our seasons will be. Now, I think that they will, personally, but I don't know if they will, because we haven't seen them play. We saw a spring game. You saw some of these guys flash a little bit, but we haven't seen them against, a team like Clemson. When the lights are on in prime time, everyone's watching national TV. That's a different environment than a spring game that, doesn't really have much, bearing on it. The second reason is, I think, poor performance. There's a lot of expectations for JT Daniels, especially after what we saw last year. And even his freshman year at USC, he had some flashes of some really good moments, and obviously got hurt his sophomore year, which is what led him to transfer. But, he has a lot of expectations coming in here. There's whispers about Heisman, candidate. But if he doesn't stand up, if he doesn't live up to the expectations that people are giving him, I don't think that will win a national championship this year. I think he has to play at the same level that he played those last 4 games and better than that too. I think what he played those last 4 games, he's proven that he can do it. But again, this one kind of goes in with the wide receivers. If the wide receivers aren't helping him out, then he's going to struggle. You look at Jake Fromm, his 2017 season took us to national championship, but he had a lot of players out there: Mecole Hardman, Terry Godwin, Javon Wims. He had all these different people that he could throw to and trust. And then you look at that 2019 season, Lawrence Cager was his go-to guy. He gets hurt, and then he has no one really, So he struggled a lot more than he did that 2017 season when he was a freshman because the receiving core wasn't as good. And so I think that will matter a lot. And so I think if he has a poor performance this year, a couple bad games, then we probably won't get to that, where we want to be. But, I have faith in him, and I don't really think that's going to happen. But if we don't win national championship, that's going to be one of the main reasons. And the last one's coaching. I think Todd Monk, I have a lot of trust in him. I have a lot of faith. There's a lot of good things being whispered around around campus right now about what he's been doing with this offense. There's a lot of people that's really excited about what he's doing. But again, we haven't really seen too much. Now, Todd Monken's a little different. He had a full season to work with Stetson Bennett, and we, to be honest, we were beating Alabama at halftime. We didn't win, but he took Stetson Bennett and elevated that offense to a level that I don't think we could have reached without him. And so I think he's going to add a lot to the team this year, and I think I don't have so much, doubt in him as I do the entire coaching staff. I love Kirby Smart. I think he's probably one of the greatest Georgia coaches we've ever had. But again, Kirby, you'd be lying if you told yourself Kirby hasn't had some mishaps as a coach, make some poor decisions. But all coaches do. You can't really you can't look down on him too much because we're not in that position. We don't know what it's like. But still, he is getting paid millions of dollars. So I think if it comes down to it, we don't win a national championship. I think one of the other reasons will be the coaching. I think that'll be one of the main reasons we don't. But again, I think we will. I think Georgia will win. Well, I think Georgia will make it to the playoffs this year. I think we have a very good chance of winning a national championship. I'm not going to make a prediction that we will win because I'm a Georgia fan, so obviously I would hope so. But there's no telling. But I think we have the talent, we have the coaching, we have the quarterback this year. There's no controversy about who it's going to be. We know we have a starter. Kirby has named him. He was at SEC Media Day back in the summer. We've known that he's the guy. He's had time to build chemistry with these young guys. Probably doing some drills, after practice, during the summertime with these young receivers, trying to build chemistry with these guys so that when the season comes, they're ready to go. And, there's not a bigger test this year than Clemson. Clemson's going to be the biggest game we play this year, probably, unless Florida does something, has something, that we're not projecting they'll have. Then I think if we can get past Clemson, we're going to have a pretty good year. And I think that first game is going to be a big indicator for how the season goes. Now, that isn't to say that if we lose that game, then the season's done. That's not true. Clemson is Clemson. They're a really formidable, team to play against. But I think if Georgia comes into this game, beats Clemson, and you should go back and watch my preview. I'll put it up here. You go back and watch my preview, and you can see what I said about it. But I think if Georgia can beat Clemson, then with the injuries that we have and all these things, expect Georgia to be a force to be reckoned with, is what I'll say. Because with all these injuries, a lot of questions in the secondary, questions at tight end right now because of the injuries. I think once we get the, Darnell and people like that, and if Eric Gilbert comes back, then at that point, tight end position is good to go. But just the questions coming into this game specifically, with all of these, the negative coverage over the team, or I wouldn't say negative coverage, but the doubt I think that some of the media has had because of the injuries. I think if we overcome that with, especially with these wide receivers, I think they'll play a big part into the game, the Clemson game. I think if we beat Clemson, then we're good to go for the rest of the season. I think we'll have a great season. But yeah, these are the reasons why I think we will win a national championship with JT Daniels, or we won't. Thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.